not your coach's job to get you recruited. It's not your coach's job to say you are going to go to this school and you are going to show up and this is all taken care of for you. Instead, it's you as a student athlete here in help with your family and the people that support you to take ownership, to take accountability, take a little bit of responsibility in owning your recruiting process. And whatever that might be, I'm not talking about levels, I'm not talking about school, I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about the idea that it is your responsibility to take ownership and accountability of your recruiting process. So when it comes to thinking about that, some people say NCAA recruiting and all those things, let's talk about eligibility and standards and all that. I'm not here to do all that today. That is a lot. That is very detailed in terms of compliance and eligibility and different levels and those things there. Instead, what we're going to think about here is a game plan, or the things, what are 2, 3, 4 things that you can focus on that are large areas when it comes to recruiting, that you probably have questions about or will have questions about, and how you can take that back and start to take ownership and responsibility in that process. And so, not my goal to keep you guys here more than 15, 20 minutes. But it's important that we cover some of these topics, both from me as a college coach, but also from the CP3 and Jordan Brand standpoint. So, we'll go through a couple things here. These numbers to start, 500,000 boys and 380,000 girls. These are the number of high school athletes that play basketball at the high school level. And so of those, 3 to 4% of them will play college basketball at any level. NCAA, NAIA, junior college, NCCAA, whatever it might be. 3 to 4% of them will play college basketball at any time. From there, 1 to 2% of them will play Division I basketball. Who wants to play Division I basketball? Awesome. A lot of you. I would hope so, or else you wouldn't be at camp like this. You wouldn't be playing against high-level competition from that standpoint. So just thinking what these numbers mean, you're in a select company. Obviously, not everybody's here at camps. But as you move to the next level, the numbers, you make the commitment, the number of athletes that make the sacrifice, but also who have the skill and fit for those levels, just gets really, really small. And so a couple things we want to think about. Hey, who am I? This is the whole picture of me, but this is not about me. I was Division III basketball player. Why? Because that was the best fit for me. In 4 years, I started for 3 years, we won 3 conference championships. I was fortunate enough today to go back and coach at this school. Coach the 2 national championship games. I'm the second winningest coach in our league from this standpoint here, and I'm 36 years old. So for me, tremendous journey. What else has that done? I've been a Division II assistant. I got a new job. I currently coach another Division III school. I started here in June. Doing a CP3 camp. I do USA basketball. So I'm a product tester with the Jordan Brand. So basketball has afforded me a ton of opportunities. More importantly, I coach internationally. So the idea that, hey, these are your peers that are competing for the same things you're looking for is just not the case. There's somebody in Europe, there's somebody in Australia, there's somebody in Africa that's looking to do the same thing as you. And so just know, it's a select group, but there's people you have no clue about that are looking to do the same thing as you. This is Coach Rush. I'd like Coach Rush to introduce himself.
So my name is John Rush. I'm a basketball coach at Ford College, which is a junior college located right outside of Chicago. Before that, I was coaching at high school level for probably the last 10 years or so. Our goal for today is to try to let you guys use us as resources and ask any questions that you might have about the college process.
A couple things. You don't know who's here. You don't know every coach that's here. I met Coach Rush at CP3 camp. He was tight ever since. But you don't know how these coaches who are volunteering their time can help you now, can help you next year, can help you in a couple years. I can only speak from my experience. So what's going to happen is we're going to leave camp here, and I've got friends at various levels from Division I, Division II, Division III junior college, They're going to ask, hey, what kids from this state, what kids were in this, maybe an all-star game, or what kids stood out in drill, whatever it might be. And I'm going to tell them, hey, I don't know if they can play for you in the future, but these are kids that stood out for different reasons. Maybe a skill. The last guy I'm going to talk about is he sat here in the front row. He's the first person that came in here and sat in the front row. To me, that stands out. So I'd encourage you to look at your coaches, be attentive to them, listen to what they're trying to say, more importantly, be coachable from that standpoint, simply because you don't know who knows who and how maybe they can help you. So think about first thing, and this is not like specific to each one of you. This is general idea from those things. But regardless of what level it's going to be, you have to figure out the right fit for you. And so when you think about that, that's going to be an academic fit, an athletic fit, a social fit, and a financial fit. There's a ton of things that go into that. But from an academic standpoint, the higher your grades are, the better you do academically, the more opportunities you have. That's just the reality. And so I can only speak from experience and things that I know. I have a friend who coaches at Duke University. They tried to get a transfer student to come in. The university would not bend any exceptions for this student athlete to then be eligible at. You want to go to Harvard, you play at Ivy, you want to play at Vandy, you play at Cal, Stanford, Notre Dame, whatever that might be, they don't make any exceptions for, hey, this person's basketball, this person's athlete. It doesn't work that way. So the more opportunities you want, I would encourage you to do the best you can from an academic standpoint. Notice I didn't say you have to get all A's. But you know when you're putting in effort. The same way you approach training for basketball, the same way you approach those other things in your life, you should be approaching your academics. Coach Becker had to say, how you do anything is how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. So the same effort you put into your game, the same effort you make time for your friends, you should be doing that for your academics to open up as many possibilities as possible. Second piece, from an athletic standpoint, I would start by saying this is where people do not want to be honest with themselves. Where can I realistically play, maybe right now, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, or what level do I want to get to? But what happens is most people think, hey, I can play here. They don't put in the effort. They don't put in some of the things that it takes to get to that level. And the reality is, not everybody can play at that level. So understanding what fit means, where can I be successful? Obviously, this is a great chance to understand that. You're playing against high-level competition in a camp, exposure camp style team. Hopefully, you're playing with your club team on a high-level experience, whether it's a circuit or not, doesn't matter. But you're playing in opportunities that allow you to play against some great competition. How do you stack up against the all-conference players from your high school, or the all-area, or all-state? What does that look like? Those are great benchmarks to understand maybe where I might be from an athletic standpoint. Social standpoint, thinking about preferences. And I'm going to encourage you now, as you move through this process, to be a little bit selfish. Most of the times in basketball, what do coaches say? Hey, be unselfish, right? Pass the ball, move it more. But in this, I would say be a little bit selfish. Why? You've got to think about what you like, what you are interested in. Because eventually, if you're fortunate enough to play at the college level, they are going to drop you off at that campus. And you are going to be the one that lives it, that experiences the highs and lows of being a student athlete at any institution. And so when they drop you off, are you comfortable with the size of the school? How many students are there? Are you comfortable with the academic program that you'll be majoring in? Are you comfortable with the social scene? I coached in Nebraska. A lot of kids that came from small towns of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. They went to the University of Nebraska, 30,000 kids, major city. It was too much. Why? Because they were not used to that. That wasn't a great fit for them. And so I would encourage you from now, moving forward, to think a little bit selfish about what is important to you, but also, the people that are be supporting you through that process. And then the last piece is financial. This could be scholarship, this could be NIL, which is awesome now. This could be different ways to help pay for, to help have no cost to attend college. The goal would be to get a scholarship, that'd be awesome. Different levels provide different opportunities. So looking at what that might be, and then obviously with the NIL stuff that could go into recruiting for some of you, that'll make a difference as well. So does that make sense from a fit standpoint? You're looking from an academic, athletic, social, and also a financial. Next, basketball, building, and winning teams. So thinking about you at the center of this, who's a part of that winning team? First would be your parents, or your guardians or your family. Why? They support you, they're very close to you, they love you, they're helping you transition into whatever that'll be next. Second piece would be like your coaches, whether that's high school coach, your club coach, you've got trainers you work with, some people have strength and conditioning coaches, mental performance coaches. Like who is helping build you, right? Who's helping you train for what you want to do at the next level? Not everybody has a great high school coach that can just pick up the phone and call a whole bunch of people on their behalf. Not every club has a director of recruiting that people just call to ask about players. So you've got to be strategic in terms of who can help, who's a part of this process as you move forward. A person that people forget about is your guidance counselor. That's your school. Why would a guidance counselor be important? Yeah. What's that? Yeah, that's true. What else? Why else would a guidance counselor be important? Stay on track with what? With your school. Why else? Yes. So, if you say, hey, guidance counselor, I want to play college basketball, that should trigger something in their mind from an eligibility standpoint. We're not going to go through that today, but your core courses, right? How many core courses do you have as you're building your schedule to get through school? Hey, I want to go play in the NESCAC, high academically. I want to play in the Ivy League. I want to play at Notre Dame, or that's who's recruiting you. Whatever it might be, there's some additional requirements from that standpoint. So now, from an academic standpoint, they're on the same page with you. So that's why I would involve your guidance counselor. Same way you have a trainer, they're able to help guide and build those things for you from an academic standpoint. And then the last piece would be friends, teammates. Sometimes you want to play with your friends, you'll be recruited at the same level, go do some of those things. Or people that you play against eventually become friends from camps, from different showcases, some of those things you'll be a part of. So this would be that winning team. You're in the center, but you've got people that support you. Now they're on the same page. You've already committed, hey, I want to play college basketball, great. So now your parents, your families know that that's what you want to do. Your coaches know that that's what you want to do. Your guidance counselor from an academic standpoint knows that's what you want to do. And your friends know that's what you want to do. So now everybody's on the same page when it comes to helping support you get to that next level. Briefly, this idea of the transfer portal. I always like to cover this just from both a raw numbers standpoint, but then also from a mentality standpoint. So I think over the last couple of years, the transfer portal has been almost glorified in a way. Like, hey, I've got an opportunity, and I think it is great that if a situation is not right for you, that you maybe have an opportunity to move on. But the idea that I'm going to go here in 1 year and I'm going to transfer somewhere else, because that'll be better, just does not always exist. And so if you look at just from a raw number standpoint, last year there were 1,100 women's basketball players that were in the transfer portal. About 3/4 of them found a new team at any level. 59% of them transferred from one Division I school to another. 4 transferred up. Most of them transferred down. So what you would assume from just a raw number standpoint is that it probably wasn't a great fit in some level, like we just talked about. Now, there are certain situations. Now, coaches can basically say, hey, you need to transfer. You know, they can kind of do that. Also, as an athlete, like it might not be a good situation. Maybe you thought the coach was one way, and just from a personality standpoint, it doesn't work. Sometimes there's things that happen in your life that say, hey, yes, I need to transfer from that idea as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. You do have freedom to be able to do that. But there's no guarantee that you will find a new home. This is from men's basketball. This is from conferences. So like the NEC conference, who knows a team that's in the NEC? I know, that's Division I. I would encourage you all, you want to play Division I, you need to think about where these levels are, what teams are in Division I. But thinking of that, 38% of their conference transfer. That's a staggering number. But there's no guarantee that just because I put my name in the portal, that a new school has to take it. Or that I can go back to the school I just transferred. And so this is a graphic that everybody's seen in the last month of social media. I personally, I don't believe these numbers to be exactly true, but from an idea standpoint, there's no guarantee that there's a. And so what I would do if I was a student athlete, I would be, especially in your position, because a couple things are happening, right? You've got athletes who are still, after about 2 more years, the COVID year that you get, your extra year, should be done. So you won't have as many 5th, 6th, or even 7th year college basketball players still playing. Because what that does is squeezes spots for you guys. It just takes away the opportunity. So that'll be done. From a transferring standpoint, then you'll look at maybe some of the one-time transfer rules and then the grad transfer. So it opens up a few more spots. But I would be thinking more if these schools, as you move through this process, fit what you're looking for. And especially at the scholarship level, if you are fortunate enough to get a scholarship offer and you love the school, great relationship with the coach or coaching staff, great opportunities for you to play, I would strongly consider taking that opportunity. Why? There's no guarantee that it'll be there after the season when the transfer portal. You see now people can rebuild rosters in 4 months. And so if you feel great about that particular school, I would strongly consider. I was just talking to one of the coaches. We drove down here from the airport together. He has a great player from Canada. I really, the CP3 kid, really liked his game, and he just committed to a small division. But they won their league. Well, they finished 2nd in their league last year. And people were like, hey, you could have gone somewhere else. Like, bigger, you could have got some greater opportunity. But what happened was, it was a great fit. They were a winning program. Both their starting 3 men were graduating. They wanted him to come in and compete for the starting 3 spot as a freshman in college. So he's been there for the summer. He's put himself in position to have an opportunity to play right away. He likes the school, likes the coaching staff, has a great opportunity to play, and he decided to commit. He was a little bit selfish and thinking about fit and those kind of things, but that was what he wanted. And so to me, that's the stuff you gotta be looking for. Relationships with that staff, opportunities to play probably early as possible, but then also, what works for me? What works for me and my family from that standpoint? So, if you take nothing from the idea of transfer, there is no guarantee that if you put your name in that portal, that if you want to move on, that you will find a new home. And so I would just on the front end be really conscious of that process. Lastly, something that people ask about all the time, and I think it's important to cover, is your NIL or name, image, likeness kind of ideas. So think about this from a high school's perspective. I'm a high school athlete. Can you engage in NIL opportunities? States allow it. Some states have limited use, and some states do not allow it. So what I would think about from that, or I would probably stay away from it, but you've got to check with each state. You guys are from everywhere, to check your state rules in terms of what that means from NIL. I will say this, once you start this process, it becomes a business with business decisions. And so any organization, product, service, good, whatever it could be, will expect something in return. Typically from a basketball standpoint, that is production on the court to help that program win. No production, usually this comes back to us and we move on. And so I would stay away from it from a high school standpoint, but I can't tell you. But if you get to that college level, and for some of you, this will be a part of your recruiting process. It will be. And you should be, it's an awesome opportunity. I feel it's great to be able to profit, to be able to kind of, use your name, who you are, what you're doing, to be able to help you financially. But a couple things you need to do. Review those state laws, even at the college level, from a compliance standpoint. Different states, different conferences, different leagues allow different things from an NIL standpoint. There is no uniform, like these are the rules that are. So you need to make sure you understand what that is. Secondly, I would think, the second piece would be like understanding what kind of relationship this is with a company or a good or a service or a product. You got to make sure it fits who you are. You got to make sure it fits what you're looking to promote or attach your name to and what that looks like for you. You also need to consult with somebody, whether it's your parents, whether it's an agent, whether it's somebody else who can actually, from a contract standpoint, help you understand what those mean. And then lastly, you need to make sure you're reporting these things to your school from a compliance standpoint. Why? Most do not pay taxes on this, and then it comes back to get them when they didn't pay those taxes. Most do not understand that these are legal contracts now, and so you are bound to those contracts. I have a friend that does this with Big Ten programs. And he's actually had to sue Big Ten athletes on behalf of companies for not abiding by their legal contracts that they entered into. And so these are things that will probably be down the road, but you gotta make sure you understand. And if it's a part of your recruiting process, these are easy questions you can always ask. You can ask, how are the rules enforced by the conference or the school? Great. How is it going to look like for me at this institution? Is this something I have to do on my own? Is there a marketplace for these things? Is there a collective now that just collects money to make it more uniform for student athletes? Like, is this something that I can, am I at a level that I see, like you see on TV, I got a car, I got this, or I got that, or is that individually, or how does that work? And the thing that you're starting to see is, great, you can profit from that. But if I'm your teammate, it can cause a little tension. Hey, this person got this. This person's doing this. Well, I should get the same thing as them. And so, for all the great things that it provides, there are some negatives that come with that. You can ask how current students on the team do those things. What is happening from a monetization standpoint? Obviously, is there a marketplace that you can go find these things, be connected with people? But these are all kind of questions that will really help you understand how recruiting plays into that. When it first started, it was clearly free market, anything. Go find whatever you want. There were no rules or anything like that. Now, a lot of schools are moving from an individual standpoint to a collective. That collective now allows more uniform distribution of money to athletes or different programs from that standpoint. And so these are the general ideas from a recruiting standpoint to think about moving forward. This is not to tell you what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. But what I will say, it is up to who to take ownership of the recruiting process. Who? You. But you got a ton of support here. You got your family. You got your coaches. You got your trainers. You should get your guidance counselor involved. You've got your friends. You've got coaches that you meet along the way. But ultimately, regardless of level, regardless of where it is, you want to make sure that when you get to that end point, when you meant when you arrive on that campus that you feel good about that fit from an academic, from an athletic, from a social, and obviously from a financial fit. So that's all I've got. If there are any questions, feel free to stay. You can ask them now.